Welcome to the Purity for Life podcast, episode 148, Understanding What Lust Really Is. For more information on this podcast and other great content, visit purityforlife.me. Hey everyone, Frank Hone is back with you guys on the Purity for Life podcast after many weeks away from the microphone, back with a fresh episode for you on purityforlife.me. I want to thank you guys so much for sticking with the podcast and watching and listening. I hope it's still an encouragement, still a benefit to you, even though it's been quite a while since I've recorded a podcast. It's just been crazy winter, crazy busy spring season starting, but it's all good stuff, and I'm glad to be back with you, sharing my heart for men, sharing my heart for guys who struggle in this area of sexual addiction, pornography addiction, and just have had so many men come to me and desiring help, desiring purity for their lives. And so that's what part of this podcast, that's what the the real mission is for the mission that I have in recording these podcasts and these talks. So I want to talk a little bit this week about a four-letter word, a four-letter L word in sexual addiction and recovery. No, it's not love. It's actually the opposite of love. I want to talk a little bit about lust this week. And I kind of want to explore that concept a little bit. I want to kind of shed some light on really what that means. I've spent many episodes talking about, we've talked a lot about the mind and, purity in our heart, purity in our mind, and fantasy. But a popular term that you will hear in sexual recovery as guys share their struggles will be a struggle with lust. In addition to porn, masturbation, fantasy, this word lust is still a very popular word to use to describe the battle that we have up here in our minds and in the brain. And but it's also can be sort of a maybe sort of a churchy word, a religious word. And when I talk about lust, I also pair it with the word of fantasy, and because I think fantasy is a little bit more of a better description of what we talk about when we talk about why I had lustful thoughts. Really you had fantasy. You were fantasizing about a scenario or a situation. But I do want to talk about the power behind this word, behind lust, and because the definition is really interesting. The definition of lust that I found is an intense sexual desire or appetite. An intense sexual desire or appetite. Now, really, that word is key right there, appetite. And that's really the word that kind of got me thinking about this whole episode, is the word appetite. Because, when we think about lust, we just get the common perception of, sexual thoughts, fantasizing, naked women, whatever it is. We get kind of those pictures. But we don't, how many times have you heard the word lust and you thought about appetite? You thought about your appetite or, something that you're hungering for. And so, I want to talk a little bit about that idea of what our appetites are, and that lust being synonymous with the word appetite. And as I said, lust and fantasy is one of the hardest things for a man to conquer, I think, once he's turned the corner on pornography and his behavior has changed. I really do think that lust is difficult for a guy to really grab onto and conquer, if you will, and really manage and take care of. Namely because as men, we have this organ in our body that we can't remove called the brain, and we have thoughts, and we have things that we think on. And if you're coming out of pornography addiction, if you're on more of the recovery 201 level, 301, you're probably not looking at porn anymore. You're probably not, maybe you're not even really masturbating a whole lot anymore, but you probably still struggle, maybe to a great degree, with lust and with, fantasy. And it really is a difficult area for guys to really turn the corner on. And for many men, the decision not to lust is literally a moment by moment decision, because the battle is intense. The battle's intense. Our culture doesn't really make it very, very easy. And believe me, I'm not giving excuses. I'm not trying to excuse it. Between our struggles, between our sin, between our choices, very unwise choices that we make, and the things that we hunger after, the things that we look at, the kind of media that we take in, and the messages that our culture sends, it really is a moment by moment decision, a moment by moment battle to deal with lust. And so I want to shed a little bit of light on this idea that lust is actually an appetite. It's actually just like we talked about, this intense sexual desire or appetite. So if you're a guy and you struggle intensely with lustful thoughts, with fantasizing, with sexual thoughts, and believe me, every single guy at some point in his life does. And if you're a guy and you tell me that you've never had a lustful thought, I'm sorry, but you are a complete liar. And just be honest with yourself. Please be honest with yourself. That's the best thing you do for all of us. Because every guy deals with this, right? Every guy deals with sexual thoughts and has at some point in his life dealt with sexual thoughts. And so we know the two scriptures I go to when I know I have unwanted thoughts come into my mind, or a sexual thought come into my mind, is I automatically try to come to the place where I acknowledge that my mind, my thoughts, my meditations, the space that occupies between these two ears, I want to give that to God. I want that to be God's area and territory, and I want God to be all over that. So what I immediately just try to do is to say a quick prayer and just to kind of give, literally transfer and give my thoughts to God. And that really aligns with 2 Corinthians 10:5, which says, talks about taking every thought captive and making them what? Obedient to Christ. So 2 Corinthians 10:5 is a fantastic scripture. Now, it's important to remember that when we, so in that scripture it talks about how we should literally take our thoughts captive as a prisoner, right? As we would take a prisoner captive. So how do we do that? I had a friend of mine share with me that the weapons we fight with are found in another passage in Philippians 4, right? Where it talks about whatever you think, whatever you think on, whatever is what? Good, and whatever is true, whatever is pure, whatever is noble, and he goes on and on to list and describe those adjectives of words. And those are the weapons. Those are the things that we fight with. Our thoughts, the thoughts that we meditate. What are the thoughts in your life that are good, that are pure, that are pleasing, that are true, that are noble? These are the thoughts that we need to think on. These are the thoughts that we need to fight with. And so there's our weapons right there. We're given this instruction in 2 Corinthians 10:5 to take them captive, but we're also given the weapons to fight with in Philippians 4. So, take a hold of those things and meditate on those thoughts. And then really the greater question that I want us to consider this week, as we think about lust, as we think about what lust actually is what are we hungry for? What are you hungry for? I really want you to take a second to think about that. And if you have to kind of pause this podcast, if you have to hit stop or turn the video off or whatever, do that. Because I believe that lust is really rooted in a deep, deep hunger for something. It's rooted in an appetite that is trying to be satisfied with sex, with pornography, with imaginary, made up, totally opposite of reality perversion of healthy sexuality, and it's stemmed and it's rooted in a real hunger and a desire for something. Maybe that is simply love. Maybe that's simply affirmation, or maybe that is safety or security. Maybe that is just simply just an intense encounter and connection and relationship with Jesus. But there is a hunger there that's not being satisfied, that we're trying to fill with sex, that we're trying to fill with a sexual fantasy. And so that really takes some thought. That really takes some time for you to think through and process through. And I'm not going to give you the answer. I can't give you the answer to that question. Only you can be the one to really think on that question and answer it for yourself. If you were to peel back the onion layers, and you have to forgive me, my allergies are killing me this spring. If you were to peel back the onion layers for a second, excuse me. There we go. You guys on the video are getting all this, or seeing all this. This is great. Had to take a little sip there. If you were to peel back the onion layers of your heart and your mind, what is it that you are most desperately longing for and hungering for? What is it that your appetite is craving and desiring? And we use so many things, and we try to fill our hearts, and we try to fill our hungers and to satisfy our hungers with so many things. What is it? Because I believe that if you can get to the root of that, and you can discover what you're really hungry for, what you're really desiring, then lust will be a battle. Lust will be not as intense of a battle as maybe it is for you right now. I'm not saying it's not going to be difficult. I'm not saying it's just going to become easy, and the thoughts that come in your mind are always going to be simple to manage, and it's just going to be like no big deal. You're still going to have to fight. You're still going to have to battle and to wage war. You're still going to have to hold on to those scriptures. But I think that if you really dig down to the core of who you are, and try to discover what you're craving, what your appetite is really hungering for, I think you're going to really see a great amount of progress made and steps taken in your journey for healthy thinking, for healthy thoughts, for pure thoughts, purity in your mind and your thinking, in your brain. And so that is kind of the question this week. Is what are you hungry for? What are you desiring? What are you craving? I would love to process that with you. And if you have some thoughts on that, I would encourage you to go over to purityforlife.me and shoot me a message, leave a comment under this post. Go over to the Facebook page and kind of share that with me. Let's dialogue. Let's talk about this. And but I hope it's a great encouragement for you. I hope this podcast is a great encouragement for you. Believe me, I don't have it all figured out, and I am actually just getting to the place in my life, I think, where, and I shared this in my support group recently that I lead, this meeting that I lead with a group of guys, that I think at this place in my life, I'm coming to the place, how do I want to say this, where I am not comfortable, or let's say I'm not satisfied when a sexual thought comes into my mind, or nor do I want a sexual thought to come into my mind. But when one does, or when an unwanted thought comes in my mind, or whatever it might be, a sexual image or something, you know what I mean? Just call it an unwanted thought. I don't want it to be there. I'm getting to the place where I feel comfortable with, that's there, but I'm not going to obsess over it, and I'm not going to beat myself up over it. I'm going to handle it. I'm going to manage it in a very healthy way. I'm going to do the 2 Corinthians 10:5 thing, Philippians 4, and I'm going to take it captive. I'm going to surrender it to Jesus and make that thought obedient to him. And I'm going to think on things that are pure and lovely and admirable and true and noble, right? But I'm not going to freak out when I get a sexual thought or a lustful thought, because those things will happen. I'm approaching my 7th year of recovery from a porn addiction, and those things still happen. And I'm truly living a life to the best of my ability, my behavior, where things are I'm not looking at porn anymore. I'm not masturbating. I'm at a place of health in my life, and I'm thankful for that. But that doesn't mean that everything is perfect up here. So we're not Superman. You're not Superman. You're not Batman. You're not going to be this perfect person with no struggle, or no pain or no amount of battle. It's all a part of the journey. It's all a part of the recovery. So, again, I'd love to know your thoughts on that, and I hope that you do have a week of victory, a victorious week, a week of feeling strengthened, and just ask yourself that question this week. When you come up against a battle, when you come up against a mental battle, when lustful thoughts come in your mind, when fantasy is impending and you are tempted to think on sexual things, really ask yourself, what am I hungering for right now? What am I needing? What am I desiring? Maybe it's just a conversation with a friend. How can you meet that need? How can you fill that need, that hunger, in a healthy way with a healthy outlet? So thank you guys so much for watching and listening this week to the Purity for Life podcast. Head on over to purityforlife.me for lots of great resources, as always, and content to help you in your journey for sexual purity and sexual integrity. I would love to help you, and if you need help or kind of some coaching, some thoughts, or just a listening ear, there's many ways to message me on there. You can send an email to frankhonis@me.com, which is my email, or you can just go through all the social media networks there, Twitter, Facebook, go through the website, send me a little message, fill out the form on there, and do what you have to do. So thank you guys so much for watching and listening. My name is Frank Honis, and I wish you a pure life. God bless.